Nobody had heard from Liz Truss for the last couple of days, but she did take to BBC Radio, local radio in the UK this morning. She did a series of interviews where she was to come on and, I suppose, justify her decision. Here she is speaking to BBC Stoke and BBC Bristol.
It's also about how we grow the size of the pie so that everyone can benefit.
By borrowing more and putting our mortgages up.
We need to borrow more this winter for the energy crisis that we're facing. And I think that was the right thing to do.
We're going to spend more in mortgage fees under what you've done based on the predictions than we would have saved with energy.
I don't think anybody is arguing that we shouldn't have acted on energy.
We didn't have to make it worse, did you? You didn't have to create so many tax cuts that it has spooked the market and is causing interest rates almost certainly to jump up. The pound has plummeted. I mean, let's talk about pensions, for example, because one of the reasons the Bank of England intervened yesterday and announced this package is because they were worried that many pension funds would go insolvent. Can you guarantee to my listeners this morning that their pensions are safe?
Well, the Bank of England does a very, very good job on delivering financial stability.
That's not an answer, Prime Minister. Can you guarantee that people's pensions are safe?
Well, the Bank of England do that, and they do a very good job of it. But I just wanted to answer the previous point you were making. This is a global financial situation.
Sorry, I actually am cringing. It was really difficult to listen to. She went on to sort of blame Putin, didn't she, for some of the decisions that she'd had to make last week, and that was dismissed. Feargal, look, you've worked for the Taoiseach. You've been in government. You've advised. How do you get out of this? How does Liz Truss get out of this? Or can she? And save any credibility?
She won't be getting out of this on her own. She's going to have to be rescued out of this, and it's going to be the Bank of England. 45 billion euro. You think 11 billion euro is a big number. 45 billion unfunded tax cuts with no forecasting, and that's what spooked the markets. Because there was no forecasting, they couldn't predict what was going to happen to the plan. They snuck the plan in. I was talking to colleagues in London today who are working with Edelman as well, and they are embarrassed and flabbergasted, and they're trying to provide clients with analysis of what this is. And it's got no top, it's got no bottom. There is no exit strategy out of this. And
but politically, how do you deal with this? I mean, if you were her advisor now, she probably thought going on local radio that she'd get an easier time. She clearly underestimated them. What would you be saying to her?
Well, Rishi Sunak said this would happen. He said precisely that this would happen, and it has. You can't... I hate to say this. I used to get asked, have you a line for that? You know, if you've been in a crisis, you know, someone would say to you, have you a line? There's no language or communication. You have to behave your way out of this. Good behaviour leads to good communications. You can't communicate your way into good behaviour.
Andrea, I was just listening to some, reports on the BBC, and the sort of nickname that she's been given is Reverse Robin Hood. I mean, that sort of stuff really sticks, doesn't it?
Well, she's not for turning. Yeah, I mean, and even in the various different local radio interviews she did, she maintained the same position all day. What's interesting, though, is that in the aftermath of this mini-budget and even the subsequent interviews that she conducted throughout the day, like the impact of this in the polls that have come out in the past 24 hours, like that's the real telltale, I think, in all of this.
Labour, the Labour Party.
They're at 54%. Yeah. Like the Conservatives are at 21%. And the jump from this week to even last week, even before she announced the mini-budget, I think they were at 17% was the differential up to last week. It's at 33 now. I mean, the impact of this politically for them is just, it's
the party conference, the Conservative Party conference
this
weekend is going to be electric, isn't it?
I
hope it's streamed live in media.
That's one word for it. And I mean, to describe both her actions and then the interviews this morning, it's not a car crash, it's a multi-car pileup. I mean, I don't know how she comes back from this. I mean, look at the polling data. It would indicate that the Conservatives would lose hundreds of seats. And the thing is, this was forecast by everybody across the ideological spectrum.
Is there any chance, do you think, Larry, that there's some sense in this economic theory, this economic approach that she's got, trickle-down economics, I think. Reaganomics, somebody else called it.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost Reaganomics taken to a very extreme end. I mean, I think it's been pretty widely debunked that it doesn't work. And what she was at here, I just don't understand. And the big question to me is, I wonder how many of those ordinary, regular members of the Conservative Party are now having buyer's remorse. The reality is, Rishi Sunak was backed by the people who know Liz Truss best.